Sometime in the distant past, these steep slopes and deep valleys became home to a group of people. They called it Amungsa, and they are the Amungme people of Papua. Neither Amungsa nor Papua, as it is known today, existed 15 million years ago. Back then, Australia and Papua were fused into one single continent. Then, violent earth movements deep in the earth heaved up, and the mountains of New Guinea Island were born. The earth shuddered as two massive tectonic plates, the Pacific and the Australian, crunched into each other. The Shahul Shelf, the leading edge of the Australian plate, moved northwards. With immeasurable strength, it collided into the even greater Pacific plate. 1,000 kilometers long, this rugged cordillera stretches on an east-west axis and has been the backbone of New Guinea ever since. The Cordillera's southern slopes, steeper and more rugged than those in the north, now shelter several thousand Amungme, spread over 17 valleys. To the north of the peaks live an equal number of Damal, who speak the same language as the Amungme. These jagged peaks are still too young in geological time to have succumbed to the smoothing effects of erosion. Tough as they are, the mountains were torn by a slow, irresistible force, advancing glaciers. Over the past 2 million years, glaciers have advanced and retreated according to climatic changes. About 18,000 years ago, glaciation was at its most extensive. The tree line was pushed down to 2,100 meters, just above Tembagapura. Today, the tree line is back at over 3,900 meters. At 4,884 meters, Puncak Jaya is the tallest peak and called Nemangkawi Ninggok, or the tip of the white arrow in Amungkal. Amungme oral history traces its origin to a cave in the Balian Valley. According to them, the Amungme were the first group of many to emerge from this cave, and so they call themselves Amungme, which means the first people. Other groups like the Dani then followed them out. At this time, everyone still spoke the same language. Then, one night, everyone was sitting around a single fire trying to get warm. As the Amungme were the nearest to the fire and warm, they could speak normally. But those farther away were chilled to the bone, teeth chattering. And because of that came a multitude of new languages which the Amungme consider as incomprehensible chatter. Whatever its origins and evolution, Amungkal, the Amungme language, is a very distinct one, which linguists call an isolate. While it is sometimes considered part of the same Ikari, May, Moni language family, Amungkal differs in being more tonal, like Chinese or Japanese. This means that the same sequence of sounds can have different meanings, and, depending on the intonation, make different words. Ma, 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 ma. While there are partial tonal languages in the Papuan Highlands, one has to travel far to the east to find another fully tonal one, like the Ok people living on both sides of the border with New Guinea. Papuans arrived in New Guinea at least 50,000 years ago. They have lived in some of the highland valleys for at least half that time. When the climate warmed, they explored the highland valleys. Agriculture began some 9,000 years ago. Papuans domesticated sugarcane, bananas, and root crops. This happened several thousands of years before any farming started in Java or Europe. The sweet potato produces more calories per unit of soil planted and can be fed to the pigs without cooking, unlike taro. Taro is a tuber far older in Papua than the sweet potato, and is mostly cultivated by men, as sexual and other taboos are still observed. There are 17 varieties of taro, and so precious are they that songs are sung about them. Even today, it remains essential for various ceremonies as the ritual crop par excellence. In all rituals, taro is cooked with pork in shallow pits. Opening new gardens is the work of the men. This labor-intensive task involves clearing the area of unwanted trees and shrubs. Then comes the equally back-breaking task of building fences, as stray pigs can easily devour a family's meal in a flash. It is then up to the women to plant and harvest. Using a short digging stick called kop, the soil is loosened and little mounds created. Sweet potatoes are propagated by cuttings, which are pushed into the rich topsoil. Sweet potatoes were first introduced to New Guinea long after the initial cultivation of other root crops such as yams or taro. In addition, it is more resistant to frost, so it can be grown at higher elevations. The gardens are divided into smaller plots for planting at different intervals. A family can own several gardens, often distant from each other, ensuring a daily food supply from natural disasters like landslides. The Amungme wait the whole year in anticipation for the pandana season. These oil-rich nuts, which grow only at higher elevations, are an excellent source of protein and can be dried and kept for several months. Once harvested, the nuts are roasted and eaten with much relish. Another fruit used traditionally is the bisam. The Amungme plant groves of these palms. Sometimes they are steamed whole in an underground oven. There are two varieties, a yellow one and a red one, commonly called bois mera. Traditionally, bisam is harvested for cooking and mixed with other foods as a flavor enhancer. For a time, the red bisam was in great demand as a cure-all for every sort of illness. In a lengthy process, the segments are boiled until the oil can be extracted. Taking care of the pigs is another job for the ladies. The more wives a man has, the larger the gardens, and the more pigs he has, enhances his prestige in the community. Pigs are treated like members of the family and traditionally live in the kitchen area where it is warm at night. In the day, they are let loose to forage in the hillsides nearby. About half of the sweet potato that's grown are fed to the pigs. Other items include taro and green vegetables like kangkong and leftovers. These are lovingly prepared and fed to the pigs in the evenings. In some villages like Agimuga, communal pig pens are built a distance away. These well-fenced-up areas contain a wide expanse of land that house individual pigsties. Each family has its own sty, and every pig knows precisely which sty and owner it belongs to. In the evenings, the women or young girls arrive with fresh food and call the pigs home. Pigs are not killed when the Amungme just want meat. They are a valuable commodity, always saved for bride's wealth or large-scale feasts called wiwogo. The latter take place every few years. The wiwogo plays a very important role in the Amungme culture. It is a time to reinforce ties. In-laws, friends and family from adjacent valleys gather together to celebrate, make amends, strengthen bonds, and form new alliances. It is also an occasion to maintain important relations between unrelated men from distant villages, especially for times when shelter and safety are needed while traveling. This is also the time to make amends and compensations for any theft, adultery, or gardens damaged by pigs. Tightly formed groups of men and women from surrounding villages work together to collect materials for the cooking ceremony, like rocks, wood, and banana leaves. For half the day, they will run from the village to the jungle, singing all the way until the elders decide that there is enough. Only pigs deemed large enough are selected for the feast. Though proud for the recognition they receive for their contribution, the wives of the owners of these selected pigs are nonetheless tearful at the parting with these pets. The pigs are still killed in the customary way with the bow and arrow. This sometimes does not do the job, and more drastic measures are required. For large-scale feasts like the inauguration of the Tiga Desa or three-village program, where 3 new village complexes with modern homes were built by Freeport, up to 100 pigs were flown in. It is through shared activities like these that bonds are built, new ones forged, and broken relationships mended. By watching and participating, young ones learn the many aspects of an important tradition. Stones are heated to cooking temperature and wrapped in banana leaves and deftly put into the pits already lined with vegetables and root crops. And finally, the pig itself, cut neatly down the middle, covers the entire pit. The cooking process now begins. There is nothing left to do but wait. Reparations for war and deaths are also settled through the Wiwogo. Every man must remember every wrong that he has made. The size of the portion he now cuts determines the amount of his retribution. Gifts of pork, however, represent the valued ties that the giver has for the recipient. At the next Wiwogo, the giving is reversed. At least the same amount of pork must be given back. Giving more than what was received enhances the status of the giver. Pigs also play an important role as bride's wealth. The number and size of pigs given show the value of the bride. Along with pigs are given another valuable commodity, cowrie shells. These were much treasured family heirlooms, which ranged in value depending on size and shape. Each type of shell had their own name. Cash is the commodity of choice for marriages today. Pigs are still essential, but cowrie shells have lost their value. All brides still worry about their value, just like in the old days. Before agriculture began 9,000 years ago as a primary food source, the Amungme survived through hunting and gathering. In hunting, the preferred tools even today are the bow and arrow. Just as importantly, they are still a symbol of male identity among the highland Papuans. Wars are less frequent than in the near past, but still take place, with bows and arrows as the main weapon. Unlike some other mountain groups like the Dani, spears were never used by the Amungme, probably because the narrow mountain ranges lacked open terrain. Several types of wood can be used to make a bow. One of the best types is called bondi. Obtained from the Nibong palm, it is only available from the lowlands. In pre-contact days, the Amungme could trek down from the mountains to obtain bondi. A laborious series of shaping and smoothing with shards of glass or discarded metal strips is required before the bow is ready for stringing. The bowstring is made from rattan. After it is smooth, it is attached to the bow. A final test, and the bow is ready to be admired. The Amungme are also adept at trapping animals. The traps are designed according to the various kinds of animals. Most of them operate on the same principle. The animal enters the trap and triggers a spring-loaded noose strong enough to hold and often kill it. This animal is the New Guinea quoll, one of the many marsupials found in Papua. It is a carnivore endemic to New Guinea. All trapped and hunted animals are usually gutted and roasted on an open fire in the forest. As the animals have been gradually hunted out, trapping a quoll today is cause for great excitement. Women and children in the farther valleys supplement their diet by catching insects and other small animals like frogs and lizards. Grasshoppers and crickets can easily be found within the gardens surrounding the house, either under blades of grass or between the leaves and stems of plants. Fire is made by friction. A length of rattan is slung under a partially split piece of wood. The split end is held apart by a stone. Kindling is placed under the contraption and by drawing the rattan furiously back and forth, the kindling quickly smoulders. Though modern means of starting fires are now available, every Amungme man is able to use the traditional method, a critical skill during long treks. The noken or wee is another traditional item that the Amungme still produce. Though those with access to town prefer the bright colors of synthetic string, the Amungme who are more isolated still use natural fibers. The fibers come from the bark of two types of trees, the sumani, probably Calophyllum sp, and the melinjo, Gnetnom gnom. When the tree reaches maturity, a section of the bark is removed. This is then soaked in water, pounded, and dried repeatedly until the fibers are soft and easy to separate. String is made by rolling individual lengths of fiber together. More lengths are added until the twine of desired length is obtained. Using a section of the bandana sleeve as a guide for the width, the women then begin weaving the bags. Needles from Tamika are more common now, replacing the original implement, a bone from the bat's wing. Although it is common to see brightly colored bags made from store-bought strings, these bags display a range of natural colors. Added to the twine before weaving, these colors come from colored earth, stones, berries, and roots, producing subtle blacks, blues, and red-browns. While the women weave larger bags for carrying vegetables, firewood, pigs, and babies, the men carry smaller ones, often made from orchid fiber. Yellow orchid fiber is also used to bind arrow tips to their shafts. Amungme men are fond of decorating themselves and are often seen weaving armbands. During a wiwogo, sheaves of colorful leaves are tucked into these armbands, completing their very impressive outfits. The Amungme are a musically talented people. Many a moonlit night, they would sit around a fire singing in harmony. The only musical instruments they have are the pigul, or mouth harp, and the ongonokal, a kind of flute, and these are fast disappearing. Made from bamboo, the pigul string comes from the kongkang plant. Music is made when the player plucks at the string while releasing his breath in controlled amounts. The Amungme were, and still are to a certain extent, animists. They believe in earth and ancestral spirits that dwell in strange outcrops like Earthsburg because of its unusual black form, and in sacred places like certain pandanus groves. At a wiwogo, ancestral spirits would preside as honored guests. But since evangelical Christianity entered the valleys in the late 1960s, wiwogos sometimes include a pastor who gives a Christian sermon. Christianity arrived in Amungsa via the Roman Catholic Church in the 1950s. Later, many Amungme switched to the Evangelical Protestant Church. They celebrate Sunday services, Easter, and Christmas, but in their own style, be they live processions for Easter or pictorial renderings.
Amen.
Almost all mountain Amungme adhere to evangelical Protestantism, while those who have moved to the lowlands are Roman Catholics. In the very early 1960s, many Amungme were persuaded by the Roman Catholic Church and the Dutch government to resettle in a place in the lowlands called Agimuga. The Amungme who live in the Amungse mountain valleys have maintained much of their traditional culture. This is what we have illustrated in this program. Challenges are presented by the need to adapt to the modern world by the new generations of the Amungme. How they are adapting is the subject of another program.